All right, so today we are going to be talking about Isom and the culmination of the first arc in the Rippaverse, the ill-advised arc. So let's get into this. So, over the course of the debut of the Rippaverse a couple years ago with Isom #1, I have been a devoted fan to this indie comic company, and I'm excited to see what other amazing stories come out from the Rippaverse, because this arc was amazing in my opinion. Now, this is my review of the whole arc and the individual stories from Isom #1 and the introduction of each of characters, whether they're pivotal to the main story of this arc. But I won't be reviewing Yaira, Alpha Core, or any of the other comics. I will specifically only be reviewing this one because this is the subject of this is one, the subject of the video, and two, it's the first arc that is completed in the Rippaverse so far. And I'm so excited. All right, so back when Isom #1 came out a few years ago, it was one of the first comics I had ever ordered. Of course, the first comics I ordered were here, the Invincible comics. Anyway, so when I made this decision to support the Rippaverse, it was because I was fed up with Marvel. I was fed up with DC, all this crap that they were doing in their universes, massacring beloved characters, like having Batman overlook a freaking riot in Gotham City because it was a BLM riot. That was insane and stupid on the writer's part. Um, but I was fed up. I wanted to find something new. And I was scrolling through YouTube and saw I saw what looked to be a comic. And I was like, what is this? It was from Young Rippa. Um, and I was like, okay, I follow Rippa. I have no idea that he was making a comic book. So when I saw this, I was like, cool, okay, whatever. I overlooked it. I was like, oh, okay. And then I saw it again. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna check it out this time. So I checked it out, and then I realized, oh, he's launching his own comic book universe, and that excited me. With the known as Rippaverse. So I pretty much got on board pretty quickly with that. But when the campaign started, was where I really put my money where my mouth is. Where I started actually, buying and supporting indie companies like I've always, advised. Um, I started supporting Rippa. I bought Isom. I bought this hat, which is a good hat. Um, I bought the Isom shirt, and at the time I wasn't making a lot of money, so I wasn't able to buy like the Dokuman cards or other stuff that I wanted, but live and let live and all that. So what I just did, I made up with I got the signed copy of Isom #1 because I wanted to support Eric July, and I was excited. And anyway, I ordered Isom 1. I was like, okay, this is my first comic. I'm actually kind of excited to see what this is. So when I got it, I was unsure. Wasn't like skeptical or fearful that it was gonna be bad or anything. It was just it was the first time I bought a comic and really anticipated its arrival. So when Isom #1 arrived, I read it. Pretty I was pretty adamant about reading it, and I've taken great care of it. It's a signed copy. I only got the signed copy because I didn't have enough money to get signed copy and a non-signed copy, so I just like made do with what I had. So I bought that, and dude, dude, I loved it. I could not put it down, honestly. I loved it when I read it. And I've read it like 3 times since uh I bought it. Um, so overall, I think the story was great. Were there a few visual issues? Yeah, there was. It's not perfect by any means, and what I loved about it was it was a new character, and they weren't like this world. They were showing that this world didn't just pop into existence the moment Isom walked on the page, or Avery Silman walked onto the page, but it felt like there was more to it. There was depth. There was something deeper in this world than just Isom and the people surrounding him. It was like there was more going on. It was like Floor Spark and dropping hints and all that. And then we see freaking the Alpha Core. Then we see Yaira. We see other things indicating that there's a bigger world out there beyond Isom, and that excited me. So when I was reading this, the story was one of the things that just, it was so captivating to me because it was about Isom, a man who was retired from being a hero, living a regular life because it's kind of what he always wanted to do. And because of something that happened in his past, he gave up on being a hero because he failed to be a hero at a certain point, and so he gave up, and it hung on him. So uh when like the inciting incident happened and brings him back into this fold as a hero, he uncovers that there's a plot, or like there's something deeper going on with this with the situation that he was pulled into. And yes, I'm being vague because I don't want people who are going to new to this video who have not read Isom to be spoiled. So I'm going to be vague as I can. I'm going to talk about characters and all that. Anyway, um, when Isom gets back into it feels impactful, and like he starts going after trying to find out what's going on, and he's reluctant at first. He doesn't want to be back here, but he is because he's trying to do right by someone. um and so overall, he just despite his reluctance, his concern, his skepticism about going into back into this, he does because ultimately it is the right thing to do, but he does it kind of for personal reasons. Like he's like, oh, I'm just helping someone and all that. And so um when he gets back into the fold, it's nice. And the conflict between him and Darren Fontano, it's great. There is a conflict there. There is a dynamic there, and it's like um you can see the stark difference how Isom is okay. So you can see how Isom is this genuine guy. He's honest. He's straightforward. He's set in his ways. He's a businessman, and he's a good guy. And Darren is like almost the polar opposite. He's a con man. He's a power hungry. He's charismatic. Like he's very good at getting his way. But when he doesn't get his way is when he gets his hands dirty, and it's great. And the whole of Isom 1 is great. And the ending is when things start to kind of pick up, because at the end of Isom 1, it leads into Isom 2, of course. And Isom 2 is so good. It's got a lot of stuff that I find was really captivating when we pick up an Isom. Of course, he's wearing his suit, um, and he's going to find uh he's going to seek help of someone to find something and to find someone. So he's going to seek help of another hero and and uh and find something. So ultimately, when he teams up with Bloodruth, they go, they go to find someone, and they end up, finding them, and big fight and all that. And ultimately, what makes it so great is like the dynamic between Bloodruth and Isom is like the banter there. It's good. It's worthwhile. It's fun. It's but just seriousness. Like Isom, he's still unsure whether or not he wants to take up this role again, because so far everyone so far since he came back into this limelight, it's kind of been a downhill spiral, and it's just kind of been not going well. But he's still determined to do what's right. And so you see his heroic attitude, his selflessness, his determination to do what's right, even though he's still reluctant and unsure. And that's what makes it so great is like, even though he has doubt, even though he's skeptical, he's still pushing forward and all that, and it's great. So I recently finally ordered Isom 3. And Isom 3 is the biggest of the three. It's so big. It's so big. Um, that's probably gonna get clipped. It's great because when Isom 3 began, it starts off at the end, at finishing up of the final bits of what happened in Isom 2, which final fights and all that. And Isom goes back to Bloodruth. They kind of uh, deal with the remnants of what happened, and then they go their separate ways because Isom is still on the mission to find and all that, and he already rescued this one person, which but there's and he's he's glad this person's safe, so he goes back to doing his main goal, which is to find and help and save someone else, and so he goes through, and we get we this is mainly Isom focused. There's not much other heroes. There's one other, and it's Gooding, obviously, because Gooding's in Isom 2 as well, and that is a bit of a spoiler. But what makes this so great is when the culmination is you kind of see a previous villain working with their own goal in mind to you know to do something, to do right by themselves, because they're trying to achieve a goal and all that, and it happens to coincide with Isom. It happens to work well with him, and so the final culmination is um Isom fully embraces his role, his moniker as Isom, and fully embraces the whole hero term, because as accepts, there's a lot of things that people don't understand, and he was kind of still trying to figure out and understand himself. So he and like this whole it was kind of like this whole story was kind of a bit of a self discovery, like trying to find out really who he is, and kind of a lot of psychological stuff was, and and in the end, he fully embraces the role of Isom, and it kind of it concludes the story, and ultimately, it implies that there's gonna be more Isom at the end of the comic, which I'm excited for. And overall, like I think Isom 1 was pretty good. Isom 2 was pretty good as well. Isom 3 was a pretty good culmination. It was great culmination. I quite I loved it, and like you can see the lessons learned from 1 and 2, Isom 1 and 2 were visually apparent in Isom 3. It was so cool to see the stages of improvement because, of course, like it's no one is ever going to be perfect at doing things, and I love I love I love this whole growth from Isom 1 to the 3, both with the comic itself and behind the scenes and all that of the company, of Eric, of the Rippaverse itself, of this universe around Isom, and with the expansion of like Norfolka, Yaira, freaking Horseman, Gooding, freaking the Great War of Separation, freaking Bloodruth, freaking the Ripazine, and freaking dude, it's there's so much growth with this company, and I'm loving it because like they're so great, and there's so much depth here, and it's good to see the success because it is successful still, and I'm happy about that. And so I overall quite enjoyed Isom, the ill-advised arc. It was captivating story with great visuals, with um, great characters, and it was worth reading, and I recommend reading it. I recommend checking it out, and um, or if you don't want to read Isom, there's Yaira, and there's a lot more comics in the Rippaverse, and there's a lot more coming out later this year and the years following. There's so much more coming out because the Rippaverse is it's trucking along, dude. Um, plus, if you don't want to read Rippaverse, there is Yellow Flash's Golden Patriot. There's Drunk 3PO's Achromatic Chronicles, which I also recommend. But there's also so much more indie stuff out there. And I recommend people you need to go explore the indie space, whether it's on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or anywhere you can find any of these indie companies. And like for example, Matt Wagner's Dracula uh graphic novels or comics. I haven't personally read those, but as a gothic horror fan, like, obviously I have Dracula right there. Um, I am so excited to read that, and I'm gonna be ordering that soon. Ah, and there's so much creativity in the indie sphere. People just need to highlight it, and that's kind of one of my goals is like hopefully I can just go find in indie comics and whether or not they are politically agreeing with me, if they have a good idea, a good story they want to tell, they want to do these, like, tell story, they want to entertain people and just have fun and and kind of follow their passions and all that. I want to support that because indie stories are so necessary right now when we have such mediocre and bland stories from these mainstream elements like Hollywood or like many of these streaming services. with a few exceptions. But like these like comics and like Marvel, DC. Um, so I just recommend pursuing and supporting um any and all indie comics or any indie stories, indie games or whatever, indie devs, indie creatives. Just go out and support them because they are the future. And and I know this is kind of getting preachy, but it's not just about the Rippaverse. It is indie creatives, about indie creatives because they are the future of entertainment. They are the ones who are going to be telling these pivotal, massive stories in the future. And overall, go hunt for them. Go scavenge. You'll find great stuff.